Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of your weekly dose of Terraform. My name is the same, Anton Babienko, and today we have a special episode because we're gonna talk with Scott Winkler about his book and about his journey with Terraform. So I'm sure that if you are using Terraform, you will learn something new today. Either by listening to Scott and what we're going to discuss, or maybe you will find out something if you read his book. So, without further ado, wait, Scott is not joining us right now. First, I want to say a couple good things about sponsors. M0 recently added support for infra cost estimation. So infra cost is a open source tool which allows to get estimation of your infrastructure cost pretty much during execution of your Terraform plan, and this is something what they have integrated. So you can go to m0.com and then /Anton, and you will see how things can be created. If you go to documentation, you can see this step-by-step guide, and it's quite easy to get started. So thanks them for supporting me. Then I want to say a couple words about confusion which Terraform 0.15.0 and then .1 introduced. So it's not going to be very much technical, but just want to, it is actually going to be much technical, sorry. When you see that, okay, let's start from here. No, not from here. When you see 0.15 introduced support for sensitive, then people start to add sensitive true in pretty much all places because, well, that's how it should be. And I figure out that it's not the right place to have because honestly, database instance name is not sensitive. I don't know what you guys think, but I can tell you my database instance name and it's far from sensitive. So this kind of thing, output refers to sensitive value, starts to popping up in different projects, and we will request to apply this change in different places. So if you have some hesitation that database name, for example, it's just an example, is sensitive, but you feel that this is not right, please upgrade Terraform to 0.15.1, where this requirement has been fixed, and now things are a little bit better. Still, there is quite a few places where sensitive can bring confusion, so we are not quite sure still how it will help us in the future. Anyway, this is just a note that please pay attention to sensitive if you see this error message. So, as you can see, this was very fast introduction, and there is not much what I want to say other than welcome Scott. But before I welcome Scott, let me just say a little bit about who he is. I know that he's pretty close to being kind of with us right now, but I just want to say that please feel free to ask questions in chat. I know that there are, 11 people watching this right now, and if you have any questions about the book or about Terraform, don't hesitate to write question, and actually two best questions will get a free ebook, Terraform in Action. And also, if you want to buy this book and you want to support Scott, there is a 35% discount code inside of description on YouTube page. So you can go there and get this code, and it's actually valid for all products of money in publications, including all formats, all books. So I think it's a pretty good deal. So Terraform in Action, what is it about? Well, you can read about this book, but believe me, it will not tell you more than Scott. So let's wait for him to join us. I just want to say a couple words how I get to know Scott. Well, it was not from this book, because this book is very, very new, and it's actually talking about Terraform 0.15 already. So there are some sections covering Terraform 0.15. Yes, 0.15 was very new, I know, but that's the point of ebooks, that they can actually update faster than printed books. So first project which I stumbled upon pretty much long time ago was Terraform provider for Minecraft. Yes, Minecraft is a game, and I like to reference to this specific kind of use case for the reason during my workshops where I need to explain how Terraform works. Terraform handles relations, and Terraform is able to figure out that if there are some blocks like depends on, then Terraform can identify that first it needs to build this wall, and then it has to build this wall, this resource. So when I used to travel before, well, you know, before what, I used to explain Terraform pointing to this specific Minecraft, and for me it's just a pleasure to have a chat with Scott, who is actually creator of this Minecraft provider. Well, then you may think, okay, but there is another cool thing which Scott created, and again I referenced to this provider and actually use it in some of my customers' project, because there are situations where you want to execute shell and saving output to state file. As you know, you cannot just redirect output from, let's say, provisioner. Of course, what can possibly go wrong? My daughter is calling me now. Just 1 second. Алло, да. Можно, можно. Иди, пока ты. Yeah. So my daughter asked me for permission to go to the forest. Well, why not? Okay, let's continue. Shell output cannot be redirected and stored in like an easy way using, let's say, provisioner in Terraform. So that's why we have to use shell provider to actually handle the whole life cycle of resource. So we can handle create, read, update, and delete using different shell script. I actually gave multiple talks on this regards, and one of my talk where I actually use this and showed it is that I want to manage any AWS resource with Terraform. So I showed in this repository how to handle it with, let's say, how to, where is it? Somewhere here, supported. Yeah, here is it. Partially supported, where some arguments are not supported, and that's why we need to rely on something else. And there are 3 options where we can use local exec and call AWS CLI, or we can use shell provider. So if you want to manage something what is not manageable, and you don't want to use Selenium and call Puppeteer to handle, let's say, to load JavaScript and click physically in the browser, it is still possible, but as you can see, I put 3 trolls here just as an indicator that this is not the right way to do. Shell provider is probably the easiest way to do, and again, it allows you to manage something what was not designed to be managed in first place. And yeah, so that's it. Then I think that's pretty much how I got into Scott's work. And then I figured out that, he is actually author of a book, Terraform in Action. So let's welcome Scott, and let's let's see if I manage to screw this up by clicking this button. No, by clicking this button. No, by clicking this button. No. Okay, maybe I have to. Let's see. Of course, I have to click somewhere else. Maybe I have to.
Vad heter han? cannot hear you.
Oh, now you can hear me, right?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's impossible to figure out how this magic works. But at least now I don't have background, which is another funny thing. Okay, nevertheless, let me introduce you properly one more time. So, thanks for finding time and for joining us today. There are some people already writing some questions, and we will go through those pretty soon. Let's start with kind of simple things. Can you tell us about yourself? What do you do? What's your experience with Terraform?
Right. So I've been using Terraform since about 2016, 2017 now, and I have loved it since the first time I used it because it just, to me, it solved a very important problem. And I am now a HashiCorp ambassador, core contributor. I've spoken at HashiTalks and HashiConf. I've written several providers that you've already mentioned, the Minecraft and the Shell provider, and then my book, which is coming out very soon. So
Cool. Yeah, your book is definitely something missing currently on the market. We have a lot of blog posts about all different topics all over the internet, but there are still kind of need for people to get a book and go through 400 pages, and that's actually quite quite decent reason.
I didn't think it was going to be 400 pages when I started it, but it turns out that there's just many different ways that people are using Terraform, and it needed to be written down. In fact, like, I did not invent a lot of these design patterns that are described through the book, but I kind of looked through the community to see how people were using Terraform, and then I organized it and codified it in a book.
Right. Well, there are two questions already from people. We will go through these questions when we kind of go through the content of the book. So please keep posting these questions. We will definitely answer them. Let's talk a little bit about your projects. Like, what else do you do? What kind of projects do you want to highlight, or something like policymaker? What is it?
Oh, yes, yes. So one thing that I've been most interested in is creating least privileged policies for Terraform deployments. In my experience, many people give too many permissions for their Terraform. They use an admin role or equivalent, and this just isn't very secure. So what I started working on was a tool that can, based on the output of the plan, tell you exactly what permissions that you need for that deployment to succeed. I'm getting a bit of an echo on your end. I'm not sure what is causing that.
Sorry, can you repeat?
I'm getting a bit of an echo. I'm not sure what is causing that.
I don't know. Do you watch it through YouTube too? You
No?
should not. You should not watch it on YouTube.
Okay.
Well, yeah, Policymaker is one of these projects which I know people have been actually missing for quite a long time. And let me click the magic button here. Well, this is not the magic. Every time I'm clicking something random. Right. Okay. Sorry, Scott. I don't know why I dropped you now. Maybe I can click here. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So what I want to kind of to mention here is that Policymaker is one of these projects, as you just explained, where people want to create or to have an overview of least privilege policy for Terraform deployment, right? And is this the project which you have been developed? What is it? Can you explain?
Yeah, so this one was my first take at it. So this was for the AWS provider. And what I do is I essentially use regex expressions to figure out which permissions are being used by each resource. So in the plan, you have the create, read, update, and delete for every resource. So based on the plan, you can say what permissions that you would need in order for that deployment to succeed. I also created this for Google Cloud, which is a little bit more concise. It's called G-Cloud Policymaker. And this was kind of more of a proof of concept of how I think this could actually be implemented, perhaps something that the providers themselves could implement, and maybe this could even be a high-level Terraform command like Terraform policy generate or something like that. So the idea of how this works, I think if you scroll down a bit, there is the example output. So based on the output of this, it says you are going to perform a read on this storage bucket resource. You're going to do a read on this bucket object resource, and then maybe an update. So for the permissions that you need for that deployment role to succeed, like the IAM permissions, you would need those following ones. And then because the plan can succeed even without even if it has no permissions at all. So this would work even for a first pass.
Yeah, so anyway, it will be enough to have just read operations, right?
Yeah, and if you look at there's like a permissions JSON, I think, in this repo. Yeah, and so this is kind of how I envisioned it to work. So you have essentially a mapping of resources, and then for every operation, you have the list of permissions that are needed for that to succeed. So it's like a lookup table that tells you, based on the resources that you have in that configuration, what permissions do you need.
Right. So this is quite interesting direction where tools are being developed to answer people questions kind of in advance. So here is your code, and by the way, I will need to have these permissions. So we are kind of go into the direction where we also will have to have permissions as code, and we probably have to put, I mean, we already have the concept of infrastructure as code, configuration as code, bunch of other things as code, and now we will have the notion of permissions as code as well, right? If we have this kind of output lane next to the code, it's quite easy to review and quite easy to automate.
Right. Yeah.
There is another project by Ian. By the way, if you guys don't know who is Ian, well, I don't know how you live on this planet really, because he is the most active person inside of DevOps. Yeah, he's also an AWS community hero. And he has been making a lot of tools in regards to CLI and record, API calls which are being made. So if you don't know what some of these projects are, check out his GitHub page. And the reason why I'm referring to him is that I don't know, 3 months ago. Yeah, 3 months ago he published this tool which is called I Am Live, which is actually generating a list of API calls, or a list of API calls which are being used by certain AWS CLI commands. So as you can see, you execute some CLI commands on the right, and then on the left you see IAM policy statements which are required for these commands. So this is the direction where AWS tooling is going. I agree that it has to be part of Terraform provider at some point. So we'll see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely hopeful.
Yeah, I'm quite sure that many people would appreciate that if Terraform have this command, then they can run it and they can put it into automation and it will be great. But not many people are in the position where they actually even question this. So as I tend to think about Terraform for many years, is that we are quite happy if Terraform plan works, but then we are even more happy if Terraform apply works. I mean,
yes.
That's maximum what I can dream of. How it works, what's been created, it's second question. If there are no errors, then it's great. Okay, jokes aside, let's switch a little bit to some of your other experience related to kind of besides of policymaker. what else is like cutting edge project you work with or you develop or maybe you integrate with?
So I've done a lot of work with Sentinel and governance as code. I was one of the first administrators for Terraform Enterprise. So I've seen Sentinel from the very beginning and to where it is now. And I've done some work with how to manage configuration permission or like what you're deploying and verifying. So Sentinel, for those who don't know, it tells you it happens after the plan, and it tells you whether something will pass or fail. Like it prevents you from deploying 5,000 EC2 instances or something like that. It is a proprietary language from HashiCorp, and it's actually very similar to what is it, OPA or
Open Policy Agent.
Open Policy.
Right. And if you've been using Sentinel, like on my kind of experience from what I hear from people is that, well, honestly, you are the first guy who used Sentinel. Like, honestly, I have never ever met anyone who used Sentinel just because, well, it's closed source project, and the documentation is not documentation, but the code which is available, which we can easily go to website and just see, is rather hard to understand and to follow.
So from my experience, yeah. So my experience why they created Sentinel was they needed a selling point for Terraform Enterprise, because at the time, like Terraform Enterprise didn't really do a whole lot for you. I mean, people were already very happy using the open source version of Terraform in their own automation pipeline. So why did they need Terraform Enterprise? So they had this extra tool that was created, and they had lying around, and they said, oh, well, we'll sell this as an enterprise product. And the thing was that it didn't even matter that nobody was using it, because they could just sell this as the enterprise product. And that's actually been a problem, because as you said, it's not open source, so that we haven't seen the community around it like we have with Terraform, like we have with Vault, like we have with these other HashiCorp products. So there's a very limited community behind it, and not even a lot of people know what it's for. So it actually works for more than just Terraform. It works for all of their different products, and it allows you to write rules and that can pass or fail based on some imports that you pull in.
Right. But if you now know Sentinel and you know that there is an open source tool like an OPA, do you have any, let's say, any kind of recommendation for people when they start new project and they figure out that, oh yeah, I'm gonna to, let's say, to write some policies for my code because I don't want to spin up 500 instances by mistake. So I want to have some sort of guardrails. And let's say you are enterprise, you have a lot of money. What I mean, that's a requirement. What can be the reason to pick one over another?
Right. So I think Sentinel's in an interesting position because it's supposed to be easy to use for people that don't know how to do programming, but it's actually too difficult for those individuals. And then for the people that do know programming, it doesn't do enough. It's a very limited, small language that's not being used for very much. So the only benefit that I can see of it being used is that it's integrated natively with Terraform Cloud and Terraform Enterprise. So if you're already using those tools, it makes sense to pick up Sentinel because it runs right after your plan, so you can do a pass-fail and prevent and apply from proceeding after that. But actually, I've done some work with Indony. I think you had a call with them last time, and it actually is possible to run CloudRail through Sentinel. So you can use Sentinel as a shim to talk to other kinds of external tools. So that's kind of an interesting use case of Sentinel. Primarily what I use Sentinel for is not so much for verifying my configuration is in a certain state, but more for performing checks and validations on certain things. So for things that the plan will say that it will succeed, for example, but maybe you don't have the required permissions or maybe the plan doesn't know that there's like this other dependency that needs to be created ahead of time. Things like that maybe are just due to some rough edges around various Terraform providers, and then it gives you a helpful error message to tell you to do something. So that's from my experience, why you would choose Sentinel.
Right, yeah, that's a pretty good summary. And again, I have not heard from Sentinel users like pretty much nothing, so maybe my take on that is rather like one side. I've heard quite a lot about OPA, and by the way, Open Policy Agent is going to be covered in upcoming episode from different angles. There will be some Terraform platform participating in upcoming episodes where they will be talking about how they use Open Policy Agent. And also I'm looking forward to bring one of developer advocate from the Open Policy Agent community to come and talk to us and explain what is it actually.
Yeah, anything you could do with Sentinel, you could do with OPA. So I don't see that there's any real benefit to using Sentinel if you had the choice to choose a different technology.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's pretty good explanation. So, well, there are three questions, or three questions. Sorry, guys, from people. So we are pretty much kind of covered your life outside of book, and then let's talk about your book. So your book, well, I have website somewhere here. This is the book which you created or which you wrote. So Terraform in Action. Let me ask, like, first of all, why did you do this, and what was the main reason you think you solved by this book? What? Yeah.
Right. So I initially decided to write this book right as Terraform 12 was about to come out. So it was March of, I guess, 2019. And there were a few other books on the market at the time, like the Up and Running with Terraform, and then there's the book by Turnbull on the Terraform book. And both of these covered Terraform 11 and before that. So I felt like there needed to be a new book that goes from a blank slate about, okay, what are the current best practices for Terraform? What are the advanced design patterns of Terraform? And really not shying away from the difficult topics, because these are the things that people are most interested in. And so what I did was I looked at a wide variety of different topics. So everything from like serverless to secret management to multi-cloud deployment, testing with Terraform, even writing your own Terraform provider. So it's a very comprehensive book about Terraform and how to use Terraform.
Yeah, and I have to admit that this is the best kind of the best point of this book is that it really covers a lot of different things, and not just by saying like, oh yeah, you can use Ansible with Terraform. Well, yeah, that's kind of I assumed as well, but it also showed how to do this, and I really find it like one of the best, like one of the benefit in this book is that if I have question about, okay, how to run Terraform in automation, there is a chapter about it somewhere. well, I don't know chapter names, of course, or chapter order, but it is definitely here, as well as serverless. And I find it very helpful also, since I'm quite active in the community, I often hear different questions from people who say like, oh yeah, but this example is for AWS, but I'm using Oracle, for example, or well, you guys have this because you use GCP, but in Ali Cloud we don't have this feature. And what this book covers also is variety of different cloud providers, and I find it quite helpful. So it's not just about AWS because, well, AWS is used pretty much everywhere in books and blog posts. Like 90% of content from from what I can see is about AWS. So here is a pretty good example about combining Azure Resource Manager with Terraform, for example. Don't ask me why you would do this, but some people would like to do this, so there is a chapter for this explaining how to do this, as well as more traditional chapters like very often people ask, well, there is already a question by Laurinas, which we will answer in a second, but some of these things are actually covered here as well. So let me read a couple questions which guys wrote already. So do you think that having, well, okay, maybe put it another way. Let's start with this one. Do you cover AWS CDK support in Terraform in your book?
So I don't, but I don't cover it, but I do make a mention of it. And really where the CDK fits in for me, I think it's a very interesting technology because it is HashiCorp's answer to their biggest competitor right now, which would be Pulumi. So Pulumi allows you to write configuration code in any kind of language like Python, JavaScript, whatever. And so the CDK allows you to write Terraform code in other kinds of languages. But I personally have not found any reason to do this because, well, with the shell provider, with local exec provisioners, with really considering what is the purpose of Terraform, there's not necessarily a good reason to want to use other kinds of programming languages. I think HCL is fine. I think it's easy to understand. And if you really look at how some of these configurations are written in, like, for example, CDK, it's just more verbose and uglier than how it would be in HCL. It just brings back the memories of CloudFormation that I would rather forget.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how CDK started, right? Is people couldn't figure out how to deal with CloudFormation. So that's why they instantly start to introduce frameworks, code generation tools, like pretty much everything in CloudFormation started because nobody could figure out how to write JSON files. So that was the initial idea from pretty much all users of CloudFormation. Of course, then there are people who say like, oh, we like to use programming language. And for those who want to use programming language today, I don't know when exactly, but well, yeah, actually in 2 hours, no, in 3 hours, there will be AWS CDK Day, or well, not AWS, but CDK Day, where people will be talking about Terraform as well. I mean, Terraform for CDK or CDK for Terraform.
Yeah, they have their own CDK.
Yeah, so extending constructs of the CDK for Terraform will be here. But also there will be some other people talking about CDK, like not just for Terraform, but also for Kubernetes, for Azure. There are different projects. So if you are curious about this, you can check out this event today. And well, yeah, they have tickets. Tickets are affordable for pretty much everyone. They are free. Yeah, tickets are free. So you can register there, and I think they have about 4,000 people already joined. So for me, this is like an indicator that there was a problem with something what people had before. But talking about Terraform for CDK, I agree with you, Scott, that there is no clear need from people who say like, oh, we want to use this tool because we don't like HCL. Well, write simple HCL. Kind of if you don't understand how your HCL is written, it's not problem of HCL, it's problem of the solution which you came up with.
Yeah, yeah, especially with a lot of the new features in Terraform 12, it's you can do so much with it that it's I've never found a need to use anything else, but
Yeah.
I definitely see that there's a need for like AWS CDK, for example, but I think that's solving a different problem.
Yeah, I'm quite sure that people will find use for CDK in some projects. And I hear pretty positive feedback from people who are actually developing CDK from internal. They say, oh, we are so happy, we can do this and that, we release this package, that package. And then you look at this and think like, why do you create this package in first place? Like, in terms of Terraform, it's one module or two resources connected, that's it. Well, anyway, that's one of the things which I was kind of not related to CDK in first place, but the whole concept of over-engineering is something what I try to solve with serverless.tf project, where I try to figure out not what we have already, but why do you need it in first place? Like, why do you need such tool which will solve the problem? Maybe you can get rid of the problem itself by making your code simple, by introducing some sort of flat module structure. And now we are going
Oh,
to, and now we are
that's
going to,
what I talk about in my book is the different kind of module structures that people use for Terraform, like the flat module structures versus using like lots of little nested modules. I prefer the nested modules, but I can definitely see people that are using the flat module structure.
well, I'm trying to make this thing smaller. I don't know how, but let's see. Okay, now we can read this question. So Laurinas asks, do you think that having monolith Terraform modules for, let's see again, do you think that having monolithic Terraform modules for internal organization needs is a good idea, or do you prefer smaller modules? For example, we have RDS that creates everything from security group, RDS, KMS, key, etc. And then the second follow-up to this one, which is here. This works quite good, as if developers need additional database, they just need to worry about one module. But there might be some disadvantages, I guess.
Definitely, I think that smaller modules are easier to reason about because you don't have to have as much in memory when you're working, considering the inputs and outputs. I've seen some Terraform modules that I don't even want to use because they have 50 inputs and 50 outputs. And for me to try to figure out exactly what this module is doing and how it's working and and maybe why it's not working in some cases, it's just not worth it. Whereas if I have a small module that does one thing, but it does one thing very well, then I would rather use that. And then to compose them together, these smaller modules that can be tested more easily, and then to compose them into a larger project, for example, and maybe that is a monolithic Terraform module at the end, but I think definitely composing small modules into larger modules is the way to go.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with this statement, and especially that Terraform since 0.13 or so allows to use what is it, for each inside of module. So what it means is that you don't have to make absolutely huge monolith module which will create everything at once. What I usually do is that I have a lot of small modules which are Terraform AWS modules, and then I make my high level module, for example, to set up, what is it, to set up Rancher cluster, for example, or Vault infrastructure, where inside of Vault you need some databases, some IAM things, some other components. So for that reason, it makes sense developers to call one module and it will create everything they need, for example. But in your case, where you create RDS database and you want developers to be able to create, let's say, RDS, but maybe with some parameters specified, what you can do is that you can make developers to pass certain parameters into the module. So what it means is that they call one infrastructure module, which you call RDS, for example. And then this module internally calls 5 other modules conditionally. For example, if user says that he wants to make an RDS, but this RDS should not be encrypted, then there is no need to create KMS key, for example. And the user has high-level parameter, which is literally encrypted RDS equal true or false, something like that. But yeah, having small modules is probably easiest way to do. And I think there is a chapter. Well, I'm not sure, but this sounds like a chapter from the book. Oh, right, you don't see my screen, of course.
Oh yeah, it's chapter 4.
So this sounds like the one which we are talking about, right?
So I talk about different design patterns at different times, like when they come up. So it's not always super linear. But chapter 4 is when I first talk about the nested modules and how to use the small modules. I think that is best practice for large projects. And then so that deploys a AWS instance, auto-scaling group, database, and then even deploys an application all as part of a single project. I think it's a very good way to structure it. And then there's the other way that people use Terraform modules, which is they have multiple .tf files within the same module. So maybe they have like a locals.tf, data.tf, ec2.tf, or something like that. And then in each file, they put resources specific to that. I think that can work for some small projects. Especially when there's not a lot of coupling between parts. But I think as the project grows in complexity, I think that that becomes harder to manage and harder to reason about, because now you have more resources that can interact with each other, more potential coupling between different resources and dependencies. And so I don't favor that kind of structure for larger projects.
Yeah, and I think, again, one of the answers which I really hate to give to people, but it's it depends. Well,
yeah,
I often try to kind of push to one side. I mean, I simply don't like to say, oh, it depends. Well, it depends is like the worst answer which you can get, because there are already pretty well best practiced. They're not kind of established just of thin air, because people say like, oh yeah, let's do this and let's call it best practice. No, people actually figure out that when you work with multi-tier infrastructure, Terraform is easier to operate when you have smaller states, smaller modules, less levels of inclusion inside of modules. So that's why you need to respect at least those kind of principles when you try to come up with idea how to structure it.
Yeah, I always think of Terraform as like building blocks, or like Legos maybe, where you're combining the different components together to build a larger structure. So if you're dealing with small modules, these are basically like prefabricated blocks or sections that you've created, and you can just drop them in place, and you know that you've tested them and that they're going to work. And so it's easier to create higher level abstractions when you've done it this way. Oh yeah, and then I deploy multi-cloud. Yeah, this one's fun.
Talking about
Yeah.
Talking about Lego, this is pretty good picture which explains how Terraform can be used. Is it all of these things are your modules which somehow connected, and that's exactly what we do when we work with Terraform. So when you think about Terraform and what you should connect, then you think about this like as a Lego. Cool. Let's see. And once more, guys, please feel free to ask questions in chat, especially if you want to get a free ebook, because 2 people who ask questions will get free ebook, and the rest will have 35% discount on any products of Manin. Hello, Mohammed. Let's see. Oh yeah, there is another question from Laurinas. Let's put it here. Question for Scott. What is the best way to start contributing to Terraform? I know some Go and Go AWS SDK, but I'm not that experienced. Welcome to my world. I don't know Go and I don't know Go SDK, but somehow I managed to find myself work. No, it's a question for Scott, actually.
I think that the easiest way to get started is with one of the Terraform providers, maybe like the AWS provider is a good example, where they have so many different issues that you can just take a look at one of the issues and see what it needs to be done. And also in my book, in chapter 11, I talk about Terraform providers, like creating a very simple Terraform provider, because Terraform providers can be very overwhelming at first. They have so many different resources, it's very hard to tell what to do. So I could just create a very bare bones Terraform provider for a pet store. So you can deploy your pets as code. And I think that just understanding, that the resources are being created, reading, updating, deleting, that really helps to understand the basics. And then when you're comfortable with contributing to the AWS provider or some other providers, maybe at that point, then you can make some contributions to the core Terraform provider. From my experience, though, they aren't very accepting of pull requests anymore like they used to be. They have their own development team for the core Terraform provider, and they do accept feedback from the community, but they generally maintain their own propulsion, I guess, or development life cycle.
Yeah. Actually, we had an episode with Ilia Lazebnik, who is a contributor to AWS provider, where he explained and he pretty much answered the question which you, Laurinas, just asked about how to get started. So I will, I don't know how I can share the link, but you can find it inside of a previous episode. I don't remember the number of episodes, but it was about AWS provider, and Ilya was explaining the pretty much in details how it goes. Cool. Let's have another question from Mohammed. I would love to see a debate in the book about Terraform layouts, like list possible layouts and discuss pros and cons. For example, mono repos versus multi repos. Is there such thing inside a book?
No, not really, but I do think I understand where this question is coming from. Google is very pioneering in this field. When they started using Terraform, they had a single mono repo for all of their Terraform deployments, all of their Terraform modules, and they actually had a talk. I think Seth had a talk about this last year or the year before at HashiConf about what a nightmare this was to work with, and the struggles that they face trying to migrate off of the mono repos. So I think that having multiple repos definitely is the way to go. You have less potential problems with people making pull requests that break other people's code or whatever. But that being said, I mean, there are some examples where you would favor a mono repo. Like in your case, you were talking about the Terraform common modules that you have. Like I could definitely see these being part of a single mono repo, because it would just be overwhelming having 20, 30 small Terraform modules that each do one specific thing that's very small. So in that case, a mono repo would make sense. But for your actual Terraform deployments, like for a project, definitely have that as a separate Terraform repository.
Yeah, and I also just would like to add is that, well, maybe that's a good idea for one of the next episodes, because I'm quite sure that we all have opinions and something worked for us in the past. That's why we push it everywhere, like I often do with TerraGrant, and sometimes I regret pretty badly, is because this is the best tool which I know, and I push it pretty much everywhere, and then I cry in the evening. But that's that's just me. In general, like I'd like to kind of to point is that we over a few years we actually figure out what works well and what doesn't work. So I think we well, we actually have. So when I hear this kind of question, let me see. This is one of my website which I well, I have not updated for quite a long time, and probably it's time to do that, because here I have a code structure, and this code structure actually explains some of things how you can structure code, and like recommendation. This thing was valid for Terraform 0.11, so obviously things has changed, and well, I just need to think about it and maybe kind of polish it a little bit. But here I explain different small size infrastructure, how code can be structured, and here is link, as well as large size infrastructure, what is the point of it, how things are different. And here I shamelessly put in a large project like described, look into TerraGrant. I would probably remove this statement now, because well, a lot of changed since Terraform 0.11, but still it is a good starting point to take a look into these code structures. So for those who are interested into like what are the options or how would you put it in different ways, I still believe that this is a pretty good summary, but it requires some updates, especially with latest features like, well, not so latest, but latest for this website, related to for each and count and different condition statements, which we can use. So, okay, let's see. There is another question. Hello all, I'm just stuck in a place in Terraform as there is client need of using private preview feature in Terraform. Any alternatives than having ARM template deployment through Terraform? ARM, I guess, is referencing to Azure. So then, Scott, your turn.
I think we had discussed this earlier in the video, but there are various ways to do things in Terraform that maybe aren't directly supported through the Terraform providers. So one example is using the ARM templates, and if you're using AWS, that would be like using a CloudFormation stack. There's a Terraform resource that allows you to do that, so you can wrap your CloudFormation or ARM stack and then deploy it using Terraform. The other option is you can use local exec provisioners, maybe on a nil resource, so they have the creation time and destruction time provisioners. And then the third option is, of course, you have the shell provider that I created, and I do talk about in Appendix D of my book. But right. Yeah, this example of how to use the ARM template, so you can, if you previously had your code deployed through ARM, then if you want to migrate to Terraform, maybe the first thing that you do is you just wrap this with the ARM template resource and then slowly take out them. For example, like the IoT hub in Azure used to be only present as an ARM resource. It wasn't added as a Terraform resource for 2 years. So there were a lot of cases like this early on in Terraform where resources just weren't supported by certain providers, or maybe they were buggy in certain ways. So people did have to get creative.
Yeah. So, well, I probably clicked too much inside of live preview, so that's why I don't see this text anymore. And I'm not good reading encoded text myself. But if you look into this chapter inside of the book, you will probably have an answer on how to use ARM with Terraform. But the point which, sorry, I'm really afraid of pronouncing your name, but the question was mostly about what are alternatives to that. So the alternative for pretty much any provider is to use your own homegrown shell script, which you can invoke using null resource, provisioner, or in some cases, what is maybe a little bit shocking is that it's okay to actually click in UI. If you do this once in a lifetime of your project, for example, there are some things which are pretty much impossible to automate in AWS. That's why, well, you can be very creative, like I described on this repo.
Yes.
You can be very creative, and you can use Selenium, you can use browser, you can use some automation, but it will be very fragile and very bad experience overall. In most cases, you will be better to just use this one or shell provider.
That's a great point, actually. You shouldn't be afraid to have to do some manual steps sometimes, as long as you have it well documented. Because if you only had to do it once at the beginning of the deployment, that's really not that much trouble.
Yeah, in AWS there are still quite a few things which are just impossible to automate. For example,
like the ACM certificates.
Validation of subscription. You
Yeah.
physically have to click inside of link on email. So,
Yeah.
so what people do is that they literally connect to that email, fetch the email, and physically cut the link and then click on this link. Well, it's it's a little bit too bad.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, okay, great. I think we had few questions already. Let's see, what else do we have inside of the book? Is there anything else what you want to mention from the book which people kind of should know?
Yeah. I think that chapter 13 is actually a very interesting chapter because this covers secrets and security in Terraform. So from my experience working with Terraform, I always tried to figure out how secrets might be leaked, for example, through the plan, through the state file, through various Terraform resources and exploiting them. And so this chapter actually covers all of the potential security threats that you could have with Terraform. And this is actually one reason when you're using Terraform resources created by other people, you should be looking through and at least scanning through the resources and making sure that they're not doing something like this. Everything from like the external data source to the local file data source. I mean, you can even bypass the sensitive variables in Terraform if you redirect them in a certain way. I mean, it's.
I'm glad that you mentioned. I'm glad that you mentioned redirect and recent leak by CodeCov, where redirect inside a Bash script was introduced, and you can now have access to your secrets pretty much everywhere. So CodeCov was kind of making a lot of difficulties, not just for random companies, but also there were some challenges for HashiCorp as well. So they had to release even Terraform 0.11 as a patch version. Great. Yeah, talking about secrets is definitely kind of, well, I don't know why I switched here. So definitely secrets is something what is really, really hot and very problematic for many people. Okay, here is it. Yeah, this is better now. What is related to secret management, what I kind of want to highlight is that a recent acquisition of SecretHub by 1Password will bring something new to the market quite soon. It's maybe not very public yet, but anyway, they're working on something what will be very much kind of appreciated by people who are constantly struggling with like, this is my secret, but I will tell it no one because it's really secret, but it's okay, it will be still inside of your Terraform state file. Well, we all know this fear that my secret is so secret that it's stored as plain text.
Yeah, that's true. It's got
So
to be stored in plain text somewhere.
yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah, and I also have this kind of question myself. Pretty much every time when I receive some sort of secret from somewhere, I'm spending significant amount of time thinking about where should I put it, how to store it, secret manager, parameter store, KMS keys, all of this. It's not something what we solved a long time ago, and now we just, let's say, call one command and that's it. We never think about it. I mean, to me, it seems like secrets wouldn't be so exciting topic if this would be solved by someone long time ago. That's why secret have its own like intrigue, which we have to think about how to deal with it, how to rotate, who should access them, and a bunch of other things.
But, yeah, and actually, an important chapter there is the dynamic secrets. Oh, there's a question. If I buy the physical book, will it be posted to the UK? I believe so. I don't know why they wouldn't ship to the UK. I know that we have customers from all over the world. So, and you can also buy it off of Amazon. Either way it would work. I would buy it off Manning though, because you can use the discount code on Manning. You can't use it on Amazon.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Good point. And absolutely, you can buy it and it will be sent without any extra.
Yeah. It's still in early access now, but actually the ebook is basically the final version, and then it's going to be in print by June, July. So it should probably be able to soon.
Yeah. Great. There, as we are trying to wrap up, people start to ask questions. Great timing, guys. Well, Laurinas says that the book looks insanely valuable resource. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for joining us. And what are your thoughts on storing AWS Secret Manager secrets in Terraform? Well, I guess it is covered somewhere here inside of the book.
Yeah, I actually do cover that. So I have it in comparison to using the Vault provider for Terraform, and I discuss like how you can use that as a data source, and but also that it's vulnerable to all of the security loopholes or exploits mentioned previously in the chapter, through the plan, through the apply. So having this as a secret is not that secret. And from my experience, using secrets as environment variables is probably the best approach, because there's the fewest ways to get variables from the environment. There's only a few techniques, and you can use something like I don't know, like a OPA or Sentinel to prevent people from writing the configuration that allows you to print environment variables, because there's not very many resources that allow you to do that even.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with, I'm glad that we finally kind of talking about secrets, because it looks like secrets is the most interesting topic for pretty much everyone. So we used to start with this topic instead of talking about other things.
We probably
Yeah. Actually, great question. What do you think of Mozilla SOPS with KMS in Terraform to store secrets? Please
I,
answer these questions because I need it for my work as well. I'm using it in one of my projects, and I don't want to read. I want to listen someone's opinion.
I think that probably the best way to store and access secrets is to put it as part of like a CI/CD pipeline. So like before you run the Terraform plan, for example, you should go and fetch your secrets and set them as environment variables on the container or machine that you're running Terraform on, and then use least secrets so that are only valid for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and that they're least privileged as well. So that maybe they're single use credentials, and then they're set as environment variables. And I would say that is the most secure way. And what technology you're using to do that, and that could be anything, but that approach of accessing your secrets, I think, is the best way. Don't use the data sources like the providers that are out there for accessing secrets. I don't think that's a very good approach. And I think that's actually a limitation of Terraform Cloud and Terraform Enterprise, is that they don't allow you to go and fetch secrets from before you run your plan.
Well, Env0 supported. So for those who are interested, Env0 can go outside and get those secrets.
Yeah,
and
that's definitely one reason to pick Envo.
Absolutely, secrets in general is challenging, like in Terraform, and I'm looking forward when this will not be the case anymore, when we can just say, hey, this is secret and that's it. Then it will be automatically encrypted everywhere, and
well, it's very interesting to see the evolution of like how people thought about secrets over time. There was a time when people were trying to encrypt the state file itself, like even as part of the Terraform resource.
yeah.
And now nobody does that anymore.
Well, I don't know if no one does it, but TerraHelp was the first project by OpenCredo where 2016. So they have developed this product in 2016, and maybe they stopped doing this a couple years ago, but still, this was very cool idea that you can just encrypt your state somewhere. Well, it's been a long time when I use it, but anyway, it's a command line utility which takes care of your state file. So your state file is physically encrypted.
Well, I mean, you can do this with the S3 backend and the other kinds of backends as well. They use KMS to store encrypted. But
yeah, maybe that's the reason why they started it 5 years ago. I mean, 5 years ago, I remember Mckay was talking about this at some conference, and it was pretty kind of important back then. But I'm quite sure that now they have figured out different workarounds, and there is no big need right now. But still, yes, you can definitely encrypt it. But I think the point was talking about SOPs with KMS, and since you didn't want to answer this question in details, is that there are very good solutions related to SOPs. One of the best one is SOPs provider exists. SOPs provider Terraform, which one? This one. Yeah, this one exists, and it's being developed quite nicely 23 days ago, but still there are quite a lot of features here. It's just provider which is available in the registry, and you use this stuff from SOPs. So yeah, you can take a look on this one, and I'm looking forward myself to see what kind of end product 1Password will release in the near future, because it is actually towards secrets which we use for the infrastructure tasks. So it's not like my username and password to email, but it's actually dynamic secrets, and how to handle them inside of pipelines, and how to host
Yeah.
your own copy of your one password. I don't remember the terminology, but one password hosted solution on your own infrastructure, so that you own your own secrets all the time, and you have access to them through Terraform, and it's actually encrypted at rest as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that's another point too. I mean, like the application that you deploy onto your infrastructure may use a different approach for getting secrets. It may not need to have the secrets as part of your Terraform deployment, and that it could be fetched later as during runtime.
Yeah, there are so many different ways how this can be done. Absolutely. Great. Okay, dokie. I think we are pretty much out of time. And do you have other cool things or cool thoughts what you want to share with us before we think about who asked best questions, or I don't know, how to give free ebooks to people? I mean, all questions were good, especially for people who ask them.
No, I think we covered a lot of interesting topics today. So thanks for having me on your show.
You're always welcome. When you have next book, you're always welcome.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Yeah, and it's again, the point of ebook is that once version 1.0 is released and there are new things or new ideas, then ebook can be updated, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's really good point of it. Great. Okay, let's look into questions and see who asked good questions, or like, I don't know how you can decide it. Any
We
ideas?
could just pick it randomly out of all the people.
Well, I think Laurinas asked a lot of questions, and I think his wish to improve knowledge and contribute back to Terraform should be appreciated.
That's
That's my kind of opinion. And and then there was question from Jean Kya about ARM template deployment, as well as about SOPS with KMS. I think
okay.
he,
That's good. Those are good choices.
yeah, I think that's. I mean, if someone disagree, please send me an email. But but in any case, I think
I'll,
it was helpful for some of you guys. And if you like what you experienced during this live stream, please feel free to recommend other topics or other people you want to have during these live streams. You are more than welcome. So on this note, I want to wrap up. Say thank you very much, Scott, for your time. Well, I even have this magic button here. Yes, here is it. So now I can see you. And yeah, thanks a lot for finding time, for writing the book, for pushing back your knowledge to the community, for triggering these kind of discussions, and it was great.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Everyone, let's see, where is it? Yeah, here is it. Okay, you can see problems with Terraform workspaces while I'm saying everyone have a good day, and thanks for joining. Remember to subscribe and do whatever you need on YouTube. I think it is important. See you. Bye.
Bye now.